Hey guys, Randy here at BNC. You know, I love to go hunting. I think most people that know me know that I love to hunt. And I love to go out and just be in the woods, and just something about just being in God's creation is just amazing to me. I know I'm a little weird, not everyone thinks that way, but I do. And I even love it when I get to go hunt somewhere where I've never hunted before. And in particular, hunting something I've never hunted before. Well, I got the privilege several years ago, and we've went years since then, to head down to the swamps in South Carolina and hunt hogs. It's super fun time to do. But I went to a state that I was not familiar with, and I went to an area of land that I wasn't familiar with, and I had a little fear of alligators in the swamp and snakes in the swamp. And you want to see me run and scream like a little girl, throw a snake down in front of me, and that's what I'll do. And so I know they have snakes, I know they have alligators down there. And so we get down, we drive all day to get to this place in South Carolina. And we pull into the place where we're going to be hunting, and it's just little cabin, two little cabins, nestled back in a swamp area, and it's way out in the middle of nowhere, no cell signal whatsoever, which is kind of a good thing. And so we get in there, we eat dinner, and the guide comes in, and his job is to guide us on the hunt. And so he knows the land, he owns the land, he's grown up on the land, and so he gets out this big, huge map, and immediately I'm intimidated. Because unlike most hunters, I'm directionally challenged. Now, if I'm familiar with an area, I know what direction I'm walking, and I know how to get from one place to another. But even if I'm somewhat familiar, but if I am not really familiar at all with an area, in fact, if it's brand new to me, I can become lost very quick. I'm directionally challenged. It's me. So he gets out this huge map, and it is so intimidating. And I'm looking at it, and he's showing us different paths to go on and different drop points that they'll drop us off at, and then we just got to follow the path going in. And everyone else heads over to the other bunkhouse after we eat dinner and after the guide goes through all this, which his name by name is Andrew. The guide's name is Andrew. And after we go through all of this, I'm starting to walk out the door, and he grabs me and says, "Hey, you seem a little apprehensive. You seem a little nervous." And I'm like, "Well, I just don't quite know where I'm going." And so he comes back in, and he shows me the map again, and gives me like 6 or 7 different landmarks to look for. And by the time he gets to the 7th one, I've already forgotten the first 5. You know, when Nikki gives me a grocery list, she can give me 4 or 5 things, and I have a 2 grocery item limit list in my head. I cannot remember anything more than that. You get to the 3rd item, I'm going to forget the first one. And so anyway, he goes through all of this, and I'm starting to feel a little bit better, but I'm still really anxious about this because I don't want to get lost and get eaten by an alligator. And he looks at me, and he has this one phrase. He just looks me square in the eye and says, "Trust the path." It's an interesting phrase, trust the path. You know, Joseph in the Old Testament, in the book of Genesis, in chapter 43, 44, and 45, Joseph has this huge, huge journey he's on. This huge path that he goes on. And the story picks up on Joseph when his brothers, when most of us are familiar with the story, his brothers didn't like him because he was the favorite. And they didn't like him even more because the dreams that Joseph had, that they were all going to bow down to him. And so they throw Joseph in a pit, a plan to kill him, and then decide to sell him into slavery. And he ends up in Potiphar's house, which is the captain of the guard, and which is a great thing for a while. Then he's accused of something he didn't do. He ends up in prison. Stays in prison for 2 years after he helps someone, asks them to remember him. And then comes a time that Joseph finds out what God really has in store for him. He ends up second in command of all of Egypt. Pharaoh has some dreams that are really bizarre, some dreams that actually scare him a little bit. And so he asks for someone to interpret the dreams. And the cupbearer, the person that Joseph helped while he was in prison, remembers Joseph and sends for Joseph. And Joseph comes and interprets a dream. And Pharaoh makes Joseph in charge, second in command of all of Egypt, because he knows that there's a famine coming. And so he's in charge of making sure they build up the storehouses the way they need to, and so that when the 7 years of famine come, they'll have enough food. Well, the 7 years of famine come, and Joseph's family comes in looking for food. And all of Joseph's things, all of dreams that he dreamed about, all come true in this moment. And he realizes probably, this is why God had me go through what I went through. I had to choose, Joseph had to choose to trust the path. You know, he went through all kinds of things throughout that journey, and he didn't know what the path was going to look like. But he trusted the person that was leading him down the path. He trusted the guide. You know, it's very interesting. When I'm on the path and I'm walking the path, and I'm familiar with it, and I know, even if I'm not familiar with it, if I know the path and I know that I'm on the path, I begin to trust the path, and a sense of peace comes over me when I know that. That's what I experienced in South Carolina. And as I'm walking through, I'm seeing landmarks. I'm starting to feel a little bit better about what Andrew told me. And I'm following the path, I'm trusting the path that I'm on, that he has me on. And I find out that the guy really knew what he was talking about. And I could get from where I started, where I dropped off, 2 miles into the woods, and I find the place I'm hunting, which is absolutely a perfect place to hunt. I didn't see a hog won that hunt, but I didn't come back empty-handed. I came back with a phrase, trust the path. And Joseph did too. Joseph didn't know what the path looked like. He didn't know how things were going to end up, but he trusted the path anyway. You know, Paul writes in Romans that God causes all things to work together for the good of those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. And we're in the midst of the worst times in our lives, when it feels like we can't trust the path. That's when we have to lean into God and trust him even more and realize that he is working everything out for our good. It may not feel like it sometimes. Sometimes we may even feel like we're lost. But trust the path that God has us on. If we keep our eyes fixed on him and we trust the path, he will get us from where we started to the destination that he has in mind. And he always has our good in mind. We just sometimes don't understand it. Trust the path. Well, that hunt was great. We all came home. There was only one hog shot, but I had a great time. And Andrew, by the way, I come to find out, is a good Christian man. And he gave me some wise words that hunt. Trust the path. And so I encourage you, trust the path that God has you on. You may not understand all that's happening, but I can tell you this, and I can promise you this. You can trust the person that's guiding you in the path. And when you trust the path and trust in him, a great sense of peace will come over you, a peace that you just can't understand. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of our BNC family.